Welcome back to Sawyer Silver Vault. Most investors are staring at their screens right now, completely oblivious to the hidden signal that just flashed across the market. They're focused on the wrong numbers, watching the wrong charts, and they are about to get caught off guard by what is coming. I'm not here to tell you what to do with your money, but I am here to tell you that the silence in this market is deafening. Something is brewing beneath the surface, and the next move in this cycle could absolutely shock everyone. If you think you know what's going to happen next, think again, because what I'm about to show you is the data most people aren't even looking at. Let's cut through the noise. Right now, Bitcoin is holding steady near the $63,600 mark. But that number, that price you see on the screen right now, is a lie. It's a snapshot, sure, but it doesn't tell the real story. The real story is hiding in the flow of capital, the geopolitical chess game playing out behind closed doors, and a pattern in silver that has, historically, predicted massive moves in Bitcoin with eerie precision. Here's where things get interesting. The Federal Reserve just signaled a hawkish tilt, reducing expectations for rate cuts, and the market immediately threw a tantrum. We saw Bitcoin dip nearly 4%, heading towards that $64,000 support zone. The mainstream narrative was panic. The Fed is hawkish, risk off, Bitcoin is in danger. But that's just the surface narrative. Very few people are talking about what actually happened underneath the hood during that drop. While retail investors were panicking and headlines were screaming about ETF outflows, which we saw hit over $226 million this week, something entirely different was happening on-chain. The big players, the whales, were doing the exact opposite. Data shows that wallets holding over 1,000 Bitcoin surged to their highest levels since March. They are accumulating. They are buying the dip. This is the classic smart money versus dumb money dynamic playing out in real time. The institutions are using this fear and uncertainty as a massive buying opportunity. But here is the hidden signal I was talking about. While we are all watching Bitcoin consolidate between $60,000 and $70,000, you have to pay attention to the precious metals market. A signal has just appeared that is so rare, it's only happened a handful of times in the last 40 years. Silver has just broken out past $36. Analysts are calling it the slingshot rally trigger. And history shows that every single time silver peaks, Bitcoin explodes shortly after. In 2016, silver peaked and Bitcoin went on a 2,300% rally. In 2020, silver peaked and Bitcoin rallied nearly 500%. That pattern has just fired again, right now. This could change everything for the trajectory of Bitcoin in the back half of this year. Now, let's take this a step further. Why is this relationship between silver and Bitcoin so critical? It's about market psychology and liquidity. Silver often acts as a leading indicator for capital flows seeking a hedge against uncertainty and inflation. When silver moves, it signals that money is starting to rotate away from traditional assets and into alternative stores of value. Bitcoin is the digital equivalent of that same trade. As we see geopolitical tensions ease slightly, with that Israel-Hezbollah ceasefire taking effect, risk appetite is returning. This is why we are seeing Bitcoin rebound from its lows. But the underlying drivers, concerns about global debt, currency debasement, and the Fed's tightrope walk, are still very much there. Let's talk about those macro inputs, because they matter more than ever. Binance India confirmed this week that Bitcoin is increasingly trading like a mature macro asset. This means we can't look at it in a vacuum anymore. We have to watch the Federal Reserve's language, the dollar strength, and liquidity expectations just as closely as we watch the Federal Reserve's language. The Fed's recent pause and hawkish stance have created a neutral but cautious liquidity environment. Unless we see a definitive shift toward easing, Bitcoin might stay range-bound in the short term. However, the actual realized volatility is much lower than the headline volatility. Retail buyers are returning, but at a slower pace. The market is coiling like a spring. So, what is the playbook from here? There are two clear paths, and the next few weeks will determine which one we take. The bullish scenario is that Bitcoin holds the key support level near $62,000 to $63,000. If it does, and especially if it can reclaim $65,000 and push above $67,000, the bullish momentum will return. We have a massive $10.6 billion Bitcoin options expiry scheduled for June 26th, which is likely to create significant volatility. A large liquidity cluster is sitting between $64,000 and $65,000. If the price can trigger those liquidations, it could act as rocket fuel for a short squeeze. Combine that with the historical signal from silver, and we could be looking at a massive upside move. However, we must also prepare for the bearish scenario. If the Fed continues its hawkish rhetoric, or if there is a sudden resurgence of geopolitical risk, remember, the US and Iran situation is still very fluid. Bitcoin could lose the $62,000 zone. If that happens, we could retest the June lows near $59,200. But even in that downside scenario, the smart money is accumulating. The exchange reserves are declining, meaning Bitcoin is being moved off exchanges and into cold storage, which is a textbook sign of long-term holding confidence. This is a dangerous game to play if you're just looking at the price alone. Before you make your next move, you need to hear this. The market is at a critical inflection point. The hidden signal from silver is screaming that a major cycle is upon us. The institutional activity tells us that the smart money is betting on higher prices, but the macro environment is tugging in the opposite direction. This tension is what creates explosive moves. Do not be caught on the wrong side of this trade simply because you are watching the wrong indicators. The window to prepare for this potential shift is closing. Pay attention to the rare signals, the patterns that have predicted every major rally in history. The signal is here, and the next move could shock everyone. For more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to Sawyer Silver Vault and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest Bitcoin updates. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.